Question: did you have Hillary Clinton endorsing Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize in the year 2025 on your bingo card? Me neither. But wait, she did it in a very sly and calculated fashion that backs him into an impossible corner. And I have a breakdown of the very unique Nobel Peace Prize promotion for Trump coming up next. Speaking of peace, Donald Trump promised to end the Russian-Ukraine war on day one. The conflict should be described as Ukraine defending itself against an invader, but either way, the promise was not fulfilled, and today he's meeting with that invader, Vladimir Putin, to conspire on how to best end Ukraine's resistance towards their mutual benefit. Let's look at that breaking news, and in just a minute, I'll have the Peace Prize endorsement by Hillary that comes with a very clever caveat. First up is former right-hand man Mike Pence giving Trump a backhanded well-wish today with a post that kindly read, "Praying for President Trump to stand strong in Alaska today. A ceasefire followed by a just and lasting peace will only come through American strength." And then he lowered the boom on Trump's affinity for Putin by also sharing a previous post that read, "Putin is a war criminal and only understands strength. Russia's unprovoked and brutal invasion of Ukraine has killed or wounded hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian men, women, and children. Russia's brutality must be met with American strength." And then there's CNN's fact-checker Daniel Dale, who took a torch to Trump's claims about the war. Have a look, and on the other side, I'll have Hillary's Peace Prize prophecy.
We spent $350 billion. Now, Europe spent $1 billion. That's a lot of money. They spent $100 billion. That's a lot of money, but we shouldn't be spending a lot more money than them.
That 350 billion figure and that 100 billion figure is not only not accurate, it's a reversal of reality. In reality, it is Europe that has provided more wartime aid to Ukraine than the United States has. The U.S. had allocated 134 billion in wartime aid to Ukraine through June. Europe collectively had allocated 195 billion. Now, the gap is even bigger when it comes to aid committed that is not necessarily actually spent yet. It was 139 billion through June for the United States and 300 billion through Europe. So how does the White House try to defend this claim? Well, with some very bad math. I reached out to them for comment on the 350 billion figure, and what they did was cited this Inspector General figure of about 185 billion. They added in 20 billion in loans the U.S. had made available through a G7 initiative. Okay, fine. But then they added in things like 93 billion in inflation faced by American households in the wake of the invasion. Now, I have no idea how inflation, higher costs for American families amounts to aid to Ukraine, but I don't think they do either. So just fuzzy math there. And that's not the only absurd claim that President Trump has made about the war in recent days. He also claimed at the White House on Monday that Russia would have been in Kiev, the Ukrainian capital, in 4 hours, within 4 hours of invading, if they had only taken the highway. He said instead, a Russian general made a quote-unquote brilliant decision to go through farmland instead. Look, military analysts have repeatedly pointed out since President Trump began making this claim that Russia had an invasion plan that prioritized roads and highways. Tons of Russian tanks and other armored vehicles were using paved ground. Some did get stuck in the mud, but they didn't fail to make it to Kiev because they forgot about the existence of paved ground.
Now for the moment you've been waiting for. Did Hillary Clinton really endorse Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize? She did, but just like that carnival guy who dangles a giant teddy bear prize, she introduced him to a game that's impossible for him to win because it involves fairness to Ukraine. Have a look at how she framed it with Jessica Tarlov on the Raging Moderates podcast.
I'd nominate him for a Nobel Peace Prize.
We are on the precipice of a meeting between President Trump and President Putin in Alaska. Drawing on your experience as Secretary of State, if you were en route to Alaska, what would you be looking to get? What does an acceptable deal look like?
He is not meeting with a friend. He is meeting with an adversary, and an adversary who wants to see the destruction of the United States and the Western alliance. But if he could bring about the end to this terrible war, where Putin is the aggressor, invading a neighbor country, trying to change the borders. If he could end it without putting Ukraine in a position where it had to concede its territory to the aggressor, had to, in a way, validate Putin's vision of greater Russia, but instead could really stand up to Putin to make it clear there must be a ceasefire, there will be no exchange of territory, and that over a period of time, Putin should be actually withdrawing from the territory he seized in order to demonstrate good faith efforts, let us say, not to threaten European security. If President Trump were the architect of that, I'd nominate him for a Nobel Peace Prize.
So being the politician that she is, one who has a very contentious relationship with Donald Trump, Hillary dangled the prize he desperately seeks, that is the Nobel Peace Prize, and stated 2 conditions she knows he can never meet. 1, stand up to Putin, and 2, guarantee Ukraine's sovereignty with no land exchange, which would invalidate the invasion and the horrific loss of life. Hillary is calling out Trump's bluff on the world stage, and if he doesn't waver, it proves yet again that his peace plan is BS propaganda and his meeting with Putin a political stunt. With her phone nomination, she's boxed him in tighter than his golf pants on a Sunday afternoon. She was basically trolling him and Putin by extension, but I can't really say it's satisfying because of what's at stake. Sadly, Trump is beyond the point of no return with his negotiation position, and we know his ego in alliance with Putin won't allow him to budge. And while he stands firm, declaring that he and/or Putin has all the cards and Ukraine doesn't have any, so many lives will continue to be lost, and that cannot be understated. Lives are lost day after day after day while Trump plays footsie with Putin and promotes himself for the Nobel Peace Prize. Unbelievable. I'm Dan. Thanks for watching. Please leave your thoughts with a comment below, and let's continue to occupy democracy together.
I hate Occupy Democrats.